Hello and welcome to the Passion Driven Pioneers interview series. I'm your host, John Channon, and today I'm joined by Jill Haspert, who is the CEO of Foxtrot Marketing Group. Jill, thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, John, for the invitation. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the discussion. So would you like to just kick us off with a brief background as to who you are, what you do, and the business that you're in?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm Jill Haspert. I'm the CEO of a company called Foxtrot Marketing Group. We're a branded merchandise agency. So we work with companies big and small, and we really focus on helping them get the most creative merchandise with their brand on it. So it can be everything from t-shirts to safety gear and hard hats, all the way to like really creative things like solo stoves and sneakers and things like that. So we take a corporate logo and we bring it to life in a super creative way, and really help companies achieve their marketing objectives that way. And then we also have e-commerce company stores. So we work with companies and we set up an online marketplace where their employees or their salespeople out in the field can go on, buy logoed merchandise, golf balls, polos, etc., and we ship it directly, to the end user, to the person making the purchase. So we really try to make it as easy as possible to buy really high quality branded merchandise for corporations.
So I understand that you purchased the business. You were working
Mhm.
as a CEO, and then a
Mhm.
couple of years into that, you had an opportunity to basically do a managed buyout.
Yeah.
Talk to us about what was that spark that inspired you to kind of want to buy this business?
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined Foxtrot Marketing Group in 2017. At the time, the company was owned by Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures, which is the business arm of the Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe. And I worked as the leader of the company, under the ownership of Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures for about 6 years, and really just fell in love with this industry, with the branded merch industry, with this company and all the people in it. We've got about 30, 35 or so employees, headquartered here in Minnesota. And when Mille Lacs Corporate Ventures came to me and said, we're interested in selling this business. Boy, that was tough. Change happens, but I was really gonna, miss this business. And so kind of throughout that process of looking for a buyer, I was inspired that maybe I would want to buy it. I've never considered myself an entrepreneur. I had never aspired to own a company. But it just all seemed to fall together where, I knew our clients really well. I knew the business model really well. I knew the people who work here really well. And it just worked out perfectly to have me, continue as CEO, but take over ownership of the company as well. So we closed that transaction in March of 2023.
That's great. So tell us a little bit about the differences between being the CEO working for somebody and being the CEO and also the owner of the company. How
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
what kind of changed for you when
yeah.
you bought the company?
Yeah, lots of things changed, but in general, right? I went from having that board of directors or that leadership team that I was reporting to, and who were giving me advice and helping with my strategic planning, and to really kind of feeling like I had to figure out how to replace that, right? Like I then had to really figure out how do I set up my own board of directors now as the owner? And so I'm in the process right now of putting together an advisory board, to advise on our growth and our strategic plans. So that was a big change where, I used to have kind of this built-in group of super smart people who were there, to help me and answer questions. And so I've had to replace that, and I've done some different CEO peer groups that I've been part of. And then also the business a few years ago, we shifted and are now really running the business on EOS traction. So we've got, super clear priorities. really clear, what are we hoping to do in the next 90 days? And we're having our L10 meetings. And so, having that kind of structure in place has also been really helpful as I've made the transition to ownership.
Yeah, I've talked to several people who have used the EOS system to kind of
Mhm.
set their goals and objectives up
Yeah,
there
yeah.
and really get that quarterly emphasis on here's what we need to achieve and here's our big rocks, right?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
really,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
I appreciate you sharing that experience with us. Talk to us a little bit about, was there any change in terms of like your work-life balance when you went from just being the CEO to being the CEO and also the owner?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. So well, first of all, I try really hard to protect my time outside of work. So I've got two kids, they're 8 and 11. And I have a husband as well. And, really trying hard to spend that quality time together. And so, one of my rituals is, when I get home from the office, I put my cell phone down and I really try not to pick that up again, until after the dinner hour is over. So that's one way I try to, protect that quality time, protect that boundary. The other thing is and this is always a work in process, but I'm really focused on where I spend my time and where my input is needed versus where I can just keep my mouth shut and trust my team, right? I have an amazing team of leaders who are so good, and they are all very values driven, and they are all aligned with where the company's going and our long-term goals. They're aligned on our shorter term plans. I kind of just need to set that priority and expectation with them and trust that the people in these seats that we've created and these roles that we've created, they know the best way to lead their own teams and get things done. And so I find that sometimes if I'm unsure of what to do, or if I'm, kind of just really muddle, like really have a problem that's stuck in my head, sometimes I have the tendency to get like too in the weeds on what my teams are doing. And I mean, they're always very kind about it, of course, but I'm like, Jill, you don't need to be there. Like you don't need to be spending your time there. So really that relentless focus on how I'm using my time, what my core strengths are and what I bring to the business versus letting the team that is in place take care of the execution because we're all aligned on the vision and priority.
Yeah, I had a mentor when I was in the corporate world, and one of the things that he always mentioned was you really need to understand when you need to dive in,
Right,
right?
right.
And get
Yeah.
engaged and get involved, and when you need to stand back and allow others to manage it through.
Yeah, yeah. And it's tough, right? Because sometimes you do need to be in those details, but most of the time you really don't. Most of the time it's like if you've got good reporting systems in place, good metrics that you're managing, you really don't need to be in those details. But that's a lesson that I learn every day, right?
Every day. Yeah.
Every
So we're
day.
going
Yep.
to shift subjects a little bit and talk about,
Yeah.
the business landscape is constantly evolving.
Hmm.
How do you stay adaptable and open to change? And then are there any specific things that you guys do to remain innovative in your industry?
Yeah, yeah. So what I do, first of all, in the branded merchandise industry, the space that we operate in, there's constant change. And quite honestly, our industry needed to be disrupted. The use of technology was low. The industry that we operate in, the branded merch, the promotional product space, it's very fragmented. Barriers to entry are low. Minimal capital, minimal technology is needed, which can be great for entrepreneurs who are just starting out. But that also means that our industry was probably 10 to 20 years behind where some other industries were. So one of the things that we do at Foxtrot to stay, stay cutting edge is, we're always looking at how technology can solve problems. So we actually have a director of innovation on our team who's constantly looking at the landscape and evaluating what competitors are doing. Is what they're doing worth exploring, worth testing and trialing? We also talk to our customers a lot. What are customers looking for that we're not doing? What are we doing that customers don't value? So, by talking to customers and really looking at that landscape of competitors that we operate within, we get a pretty good sense of, what we can experiment with. An example of this, here at our headquarters, we have in-house kitting, fulfillment, warehousing, embroidery. So we really have that vertical integration, with many of the supply chain functions. Back in January of 2024, we implemented a new enterprise resource planning system, to really stay ahead of the game in terms of inventory management and making sure that our turn times from the time an order is placed to the time that we're delivering product is as tight as possible, as minimal as possible. It's always interesting because our customers who are placing the orders, they have these, I call them Amazon level expectations in terms of delivery, not understanding that, we have to source the product, we have to apply their logo to it, and get it shipped out the door. And so having technology, like we implemented in January, makes it possible for us to close that gap between customer expectations and how we actually deliver. And as time goes on, right, we've been in the system for about 8 months now. As time goes on, we'll continue to close that gap and, hopefully be best in class in terms of our turn times.
Yeah, ERP systems can be really helpful for just
Yeah,
helping you manage your supply
yeah,
chain.
yeah.
So I'm going to ask my little magic wand question.
Okay.
If you could wave a magic wand and change one thing about your business, what would that be?
Oh, that's a great question. Oh man. I think so we're in growth mode, right? Like I bought the business 1.5 years ago. We're in major growth mode. But gosh, growth is hard.
Mhm.
It's hard and expensive, right? And we are working really hard to drive that revenue where I know it can be, right? We have that scalable foundation, that scalable technology. We've got this great group of leaders and team members. And if I could wave that magic wand, it would be how can we accelerate growth even faster than we're doing right now, right? How can we take the roadblocks out of the way? And really focus on, who that core customer is, who we can really add value to. And all these things are very doable, but they take a lot of time. So that would be my magic wand.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good one. So kind of building on that,
Mhm.
right? You talked a little bit about the future, but could you offer a glimpse into your future plans and goals that you have for the business?
Yeah, yeah. So like I said, we just put this amazing new technology in that's really helped us, build that efficient foundation for the business. So that was a huge project. I shouldn't diminish that. We had a team working, literally around the clock to hit our deadlines, and but that's been a game changer in terms of just getting better data, having better reporting on the business, and how we're actually performing. So what's next for us, in addition to that focus on revenue growth, we're also looking at what's next in terms of decorating capabilities, right? So we do in-house embroidery, as I'd mentioned, and then we also have kitting. So we do lots of like holiday gift kitting and shipping all of that out. And we're looking next at what is that direct to film, or more kind of instant, like instant logo on a t-shirt, sweatshirt. What does that look like for us? So we probably do some capital investment in that space in the next, I'd say 12 to 24 months or so. And then we're also looking at our environmental footprint in a different way. So Sometimes our industry is viewed as, this trinkets and trash, or it's things you get at a conference and you throw away in your hotel room, right? We are actively working to fight that reputation. If we are supplying product to a customer of ours and it's going in the garbage, it does nobody any good. And so we're really working hard to make sure that the ideas we put forward are going to be usable, functional products, that the materials and the vendors that we're working with are operating in ethical ways and environmentally friendly ways, and really thinking about how are we measuring our impact? How are we, even from things here at our headquarters building, all the way both up and down the supply chain. It's not always easy to measure that impact and some of those changes, but we're working very hard to do so. It's the right thing to do, but it also just makes the product that we do offer, that we do sell, that much more valuable and have a higher ROI for those clients, because it means that tangible piece of merchandise with their logo on it in the world will be seen by more people. So that's another big initiative that we have going on right now.
Yeah, that one sounds pretty lofty. But I think in your industry, you have the opportunity to be an industry leader in that regard.
We're trying. We're trying. It's fortunately, I think our industry in general has made some pretty big leaps forward. And since I joined the industry in 2017, a lot of our suppliers that we purchase raw materials from or blank garments from have really stepped up their game in terms of just transparency and reporting, and just making it easier to help our customers and our business overall measure impact and make sure that we are impacting the environment in a positive way.
So knowing that this show is kind of targeted towards entrepreneurs or maybe people who are interested in purchasing a business, do you have any final thoughts or words of advice you'd like to share with our audience today?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, becoming an entrepreneur through acquisition, gosh, it's been the hardest thing, but the most rewarding part of my career, right? In the last year and a half, I think I've learned more lessons than I have in the prior 20 years of my career. I think it really boils down to being resilient. I've heard the word no from customers and investors and other stakeholders, and it really has forced me to think about and refine in a positive way my business model. So I think resilience is really key. Just realize you are going to get knocked down. You are going to have those no moments, but it's like, what do you learn from that no that you can take into your business, into your culture, and make a positive impact that matters? I would say my final piece of advice is I block my calendar every Friday from 3:30 to 5 to have reflection time. That can be thinking about what happened that week. It could be a specific instance that happened, or it could be a pitch we made to a potential customer. And just those moments of reflection to think about how that went, how I can do differently next time, how I can be a better leader, a better coach, is important. That's also my time to pick up a leadership book or to pick up some piece of learning. So I really try hard to protect that time. And that also sets me up to exit the work week and head into the weekend in a really positive way, and not have, if there's negative things happening, not have that following me into the weekend as well. So I call it my small moment of reflection. But that's another piece of advice that I work really hard to follow, is keeping that calendar block to make sure that you're reflecting on the work that you're doing.
That's some good advice there. So listen, thank you so much for your time today, Jill.
Yeah, thank you, John. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it was great meeting you and learning about your entrepreneurial journey through purchasing the company you worked for. So I think that's a cool story. So, and to everyone watching, I look forward to seeing you in our next episode.